Fishy, fishy, fishy!
What's going on, fishy friends? Alright, down here in the fish room, half of the lights aren't even on yet. It's, I don't know, middle of the afternoon or so. The lights are all set to come on later in the day. But I'm just going to take a walk through because I'm going to try to rearrange a few things down here yet again. Move a couple of different tanks. My plan is to basically get rid of that wall, sort of open that whole area up there, move those shelves somewhere, and then these two tanks will probably move over to here. So, let me get started and I'll see what I can do. Alright guys, so a little bit later and we got some progress, but of course I did not plan far enough ahead and I'm going to have to keep changing my design as I go here. So I got that wall down where those shelves were. I had been calculating from the lolly column there, and I wasn't measuring from the concrete base, which as you can see there is bigger than the column itself. So the plan I had to put two 29-gallon tanks on end over here probably isn't going to work. So I kind of got it sketched out on the sheetrock here. I'm going to do a 10-gallon there up top, looking at the wide side, two 10s underneath looking at the narrow side, and two more 10s underneath looking at the narrow side. So I'll probably dismantle what I have over there and then fit the 29-gallon tanks onto a rack over there. So let me get cutting. I definitely don't have enough lumber now that I'm going to be tearing apart and trying to move other tanks. I could probably salvage some of the lumber from some of these other racks if I plan ahead accordingly. It might be easier to just go get a bunch of lumber now so I have it all available. Alright, so we design as we go. Here we got a platform for what'll end up being the bottom two 10-gallon tanks sitting on end, and you might be thinking this looks a lot bigger than a 10-gallon tank. It is. This way I can sort of stagger it like a step system. The way this one is, where the bottom tank over here will stick out the furthest, the next set of tanks will stick out a little less, and the top set will stick out even less. So that way the height differential between the tanks can be a little closer than they need to be. I don't need to leave all too much room between the bottom of that tank and the top of that tank, because these tanks will be closer to the wall, allowing these tanks to stick out further, so I'll be able to reach in and do my maintenance. So what I got here is a basic platform and some legs here. Nothing is yet screwed together. That's essentially what the legs look like. So they'll carry the weight down into the floor, and I'll add a third side to the leg to make sure that weight there is carried as well. So I'll keep putting this stuff together, and I'll keep checking. Guys, we are back for day 2. I got a lot less done last night than I had hoped to. A couple of things just sort of got in the way. My little girl got sick. Just a very hectic day, so getting things done down here was difficult. Battery on my camera also died, so I didn't shoot as much updates as I wanted to. But I got the 3 tiers made for the stand. There's the bottom tier where 2 10s will go, the second tier, and the third tier. Now I gotta build all the legs and put that together. Let's see, I also insulated this wall using some of this foam board insulation. I don't know if there's a better name for it. I'm sure there is. And I got the discus tank that was down here moved up to here where I had been intending to put it. What a chore that was. I was too stubborn to remove the fish from the tank, so I drained it as low as I could, which brought it to, you know, I don't know, about there or so. So still weighed close to probably 100 pounds, and I decided it was a smart idea to try to lift it up onto this stand. You know, it's a good 4.5 feet off the ground, 5 feet or so, while I was filling that tank down there. And of course I forgot about that and caused a huge flood, and amazed I'm even dry down here by now. So problematic to say the least, but at least it was done, and I'm gonna get back to building. We'll see what we can come up with over here. Alright guys, here we are a little later, and the stand is just about done. I still gotta put in my cross pieces here for the tanks, but there'll be a 10-gallon wide up here, 2 10-gallons on end there, 2 10-gallons on end there. I don't know, the stand is very sturdy, probably more than it ever needs to be for the tanks I'm going to put on this thing. Tried to record some of this on my Framelapse app, but I think my memory ran out, so I don't know if that's going to work. And my batteries died, so I can't screw my cross pieces right now. I got one battery charging, and my other one just died on me before I could even finish setting that last screw, unfortunately. But other than that, this one's just about done, and I gotta start moving some tanks, and then I can see about dismantling that rack and starting on the next one. Alright guys, later that afternoon, and we're making some progress. We got 4 of the 10-gallon tanks on the rack, and I'm draining that 5th one up there now. I'll figure out where I'm gonna put that 10 and that 20 once I redo a rack over in this area with these two 29-gallon tanks. I'll probably disassemble this old rack that I had everything on. This is what was holding all of those 10-gallon tanks before, which have all predominantly been moved over here. Alright, let me keep working. Alright guys, making progress. All the tanks are off of this rack over here, which means I got this rack filled. 2 10s, 2 10s, and a 10. And I temporarily have my 20 high and my 10, the last 10-gallon over here. And now I'll get to rearranging a few other things in the basement here before I go any further and before I start moving anything else around. Alright, progress. Sort of. Now I'm going to try to move my washer and dryer over, which is going to require plumbing, well, replumbing, both the gas and the water lines, so I'm going to get to that and hopefully make some sense of that now. What a mess. Alright guys, day 3 down here. Got a couple of hours to start working on some of this stuff. What I did was I dismantled the old rack that used to be sitting over here. Washer and dryer have been replumbed and moved over here. That shelf has been moved over. And that exposed this mess over here where the washer dryer used to be, where the previous owners, I don't know, half finished this stuff, opened some of this stuff up to do some plumbing repairs and never closed it. So I'm starting to re-rock this using scraps of what I have lying around. That's the sheetrock that I removed from the wall over there, which is almost enough to help me finish over this corner. Just figured I'd shoot a little update as I'm in progress there and kind of trying to just tidy stuff up and figure out the second half of this plan down here to rearrange everything. Alright guys, a little bit later, and my hodgepodge of sheetrock is up and installed. Definitely not my best work, but if I was going to mud and tape this, it would end up looking fine. I'm probably not going to bother. I'm going to end up installing that foam board insulation over here. I have it. It's simple enough to work with and install, and it's a lot easier than busting out a 5-gallon bucket of spackle and working on that for a day and a half with sanding and dry time and everything like that in between. So, it's as good as it needs to be for the basement. I'll keep covering it, and that'll be alright guys, a little while later. And that's pretty much the finished product. I'm not going to go any crazier than that insulating over here. This isn't the greatest insulation value. Most of my basement is insulated behind the portion, the finished portions of sheetrock. There's some vapor barrier there, and there's some insulation there. This isn't over here. I had contemplated maybe framing this out. I don't know, this must be some relatively new plumbing that the previous homeowner added in here, and I guess it didn't fit into their plans of finishing the basement. Rather than bump out this wall a little bit over here and bring this a little closer and hide all that, they decided to just stop right there. Or maybe this was added in after the basement had been finished and whoever did the work removed whatever had been framed out here. I don't necessarily see any evidence of any old work over here, so it's a mystery. Anyway, maybe I'll finish framing that out one day. It was never high on my list of priorities, but I will say I don't hate the way this looks over here now. Much more wide open without everything in the way now, especially without this wall over here. Now you could even sort of look around the corner. So, progress slowly but surely. Alright guys, here we are a couple of days later now. I haven't had much more time to do anything else down here, so we'll call this the end of phase 1 of the rearrangement down here in the fish room. I got these shelves moved over to here onto that wall where I threw up that insulation. Now I'm not even so sure if I'll have any tanks over here or not. We'll see. Temporarily got that 20 high and that 10 gallon down there. I don't know if you can see any of that with the glare. That's the one that used to be up high with the pair of rams. But these two are over here on this temporary stand. These two 29s haven't moved yet. All that stuff stays the same. These two tanks are in place over here. Got the discus moved up to here. Those were the ones that were down there where the washer and dryer are now. And the rack of 10 gallons over here. And so phase 2 is going to be a rack over here on this wall, which is going to house these 29s, so I can get them away from the staircase. I better pause this and move my water change hose before I flood the crisis averted. So where was I? That rack on that wall back there is going to house these two 29s to get them away from the staircase. These two that are on the temporary stand will get over on that. What else? That's the glowfish tank in there. That'll get moved onto whatever rack I build over here as well. And a couple other tanks that I have lying around that I've not yet done anything with will probably go on that rack as well. Maybe I'll do something with them now, maybe I'll do something with them later. Who knows? We'll see. First things first, got to get the rack built and finish the project down here, clean up and make this a little bit more workable down here. Alright, that's it for now. I'll see you when I get around to phase 2, and that'll be that. Later guys, let me know what you think. Comment, rate, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys soon. Later.